Okay, in this one we're going to be talking about compound expressions. And again, add these to your Canvas ePortfolio vocab page. I want you to remember what a boolean is. Remember that it's a value that is either true or false. Your three logical operators that you use with booleans are and, or not. Remember that Boolean expressions can get long and complicated when we ask complex questions. So we'll learn a few tricks today to keep our code short and readable. So we're going to start off with a short rock, paper, scissors tournament. Obviously can't do that so much with me doing this virtually. So I'm just going to go through the instructions so you kind of know what would happen. When I tell you to start, everyone will quickly find an opponent and play rock, paper, scissors. The first student to win 2 rounds is the winner of that matchup. The winning player then finds a new opponent, while the player that lost becomes their fan and follows them around cheering them on. The winner of that second match again finds a new opponent, while the losing player and that losing player's fans both join the winner's group of fans. Keep going until we have only 2 players left, each with a huge group of fans cheering them on. So what I want you to think about is how many rounds do you need to win before you move on? The answer to that would be 2. And what do you do when you lose? Well, you cheer on the player that beat you. And then you guys would complete this little tournament until you had a winner, okay? So how do you know who wins a round? Well, rock beats scissors, paper beats rock, scissors beats paper. How do you know who wins a match of rock, paper, scissors? Once either player had won 2 rounds, so it's basically best 2 out of 3. So here we have a phrase, boolean zen. Using a boolean as a complete condition. So if boo1 equals true, then we can rewrite that as simply, or sorry, I shouldn't say boo1. If bool equals true, we can simply rewrite that as if bool, followed by the colon. So we've learned that conditions are Boolean expressions that produce a true or false value, and that Booleans are a true or false value. It turns out we can simplify conditions that use Boolean variables by getting rid of the equals true or the equals false entirely. These 2 conditions work exactly the same, but the bottom one uses this idea we call Boolean zen. For example, I could use a Boolean variable called notifications to represent whether or not my user has notifications enabled for my app. Then when they get a new comment, I might have a condition that says if notifications, and then plays a sound or pushes an alert to the screen. So let's look at part 2, find a sport. What you're going to try to do is change the final elif clause to an else clause and change some of the sports suggested so they still make sense based on the user's preferences. So when we run this program, and let me collapse that again, we're going to see, are you fast? Do you want to play outside? Do you want to use your hands? Golf is a lot of fun. So it's giving you answers to what you put in. It recommends a sport based on 3 questions, okay? So remember, you are going to experiment by changing the elif to an else, the final elif clause to an else. And how does Boolean Zen help keep this code short and easy to read? Okay, so think about that and go ahead and take a couple of minutes to work through that. Maybe press pause so you can. Okay, so we can also use Boolean Zen with questions that don't have yes or no answers. In this example, we ask the user what kind of pet they have or that they want. We create 3 Boolean variables that tell us whether the user chose a dog, a cat, or a bunny. If they chose any of those 3 animals, we'll print a message saying we want to pet their pet. We could have other conditions checking for other animals, or we could use a default else case here as well. So here we have pet type equals input. The user puts in one of those 3. If dog or cat or bunny, print I want to pet it. Okay, so now you have a compound Boolean expression. This is a Boolean expression made up of other Boolean expressions. So sound equals true and volume is greater than 0 is the example. We've already been using compound expressions, but it's helpful to have a name for them as they start to get more complicated. The example here is about as simple as they come, but you'll find yourself using compound expressions with 5 or more parts in some programs. So let's say I'm making a cake for a friend. I need to make sure I have enough eggs, enough candles, a lighter, and a few different icing colors. The compound expression to decide if I need to go shopping might look like this. Candles is less than age, or eggs is less than eggs required, or lighters equals 0, or icing colors is less than 3. Okay, so here, as our Boolean expressions get more complicated, it's important to understand the order that each part is evaluated. Just like with math operators, parts in parentheses will always be evaluated first. After that comes not, then and finally or. So here in this diagram, you can see how that would work. In this example, true or false simplifies to true, and true or true also simplifies to true. So we have not true, and true, not true is false. And so false and true ends up as false. Okay, so here again is your order, and I highly recommend that you put this in your ePortfolio again. This is your order of operations table with the new logical operators. Things that are evaluated first are at the top, starting with parentheses. Things that are evaluated last are at the bottom, ending with or. Remembering this exact order can be tricky, so feel free to use parentheses to keep your code predictable and easier to read. So let's write this scenario as a compound expression. Take 1 minute to write down a compound expression that represents this scenario. You can skip the ad before a video if you pay the premium plan, or if you click the skip button after watching the ad for at least 5 seconds. So it could be plan equals premium, or skip clicked and time is less than 5. Like this.